Good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to see you all here this afternoon with us on YouTube. So I'd like to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon, which is part of the series of webinars aimed at hybrid learning, trying to help teachers and educators, providing tools and ideas and strategies, just to try and ease this situation we're currently in, where we might have some students that are with us and some students that are not with us. So welcome. I know that a lot of people will watch these webinars later, so you might be following along with us live, or you might be here to have a look over it later on and use it as a tutorial. Both are incredibly good uses of time, I hope. So let's move forward. What have we got for you today? So we're talking about creativity and how to use creativity and harness that, harness some of the Google tools to integrate things together. So the first thing we're going to look at today is Google Arts and Culture. It's a fabulous tool. It's one of the sort of hidden wonders, I think, of the Google suite. And then we're going to be looking at how we can blend together different sources of content to enhance the resources we create for our students, but also as a strategy for getting students to do that enhanced digital work. We're going to have a look at Google Sites as a way of kind of gathering together various multimedia sources and also facilitating group work between students who might be at home and in the classroom. I'm going to have a bit of a think about how we might give feedback on those kind of multimedia tasks. And we'll finish up with plenty of time for a Q&A, because that's really important that we try to answer questions that come up from people who are with us today. Okay, so let's introduce ourselves. My name's Laura White. I'm a Google Certified Trainer and Innovator. After 15 years of teaching, I'm currently at the Institute of Education in London doing a PhD in digital education. So that's the background I come from. We've also got the wonderful Kev, who I'm hoping will introduce himself when he starts to talk and share his skill set, particularly around creativity and digital media, is extraordinary. So we're really lucky to have him with us today. This whole series of webinars, just a reminder, if you haven't seen them before, you can sign up in advance at the bit.ly GFE UK webinars link. But you can also find out more about the further webinars in the series that are coming up and review the content from previous ones. All the previous content is hosted here at canopy.click/hybrid. And today's resources will go up on there after the session. There'll be the YouTube link and any additional resources that you might need to see around the tools we've used today, or any questions anything else we can add for you. Okay, so let's get started by looking at Google Arts and Culture. First thing we need to do is just come out of here and talk about what Google Arts and Culture actually is. Like all of the Google tools, it's web-based. So if you come to the browser, you'll get one experience, but it's also app-based. So if you're an iPad school or your school uses Android apps, the Google Arts and Culture app has a number of features that are not available in the browser. So it's really mobile design friendly. And some of the sort of fun and quirky stuff that you might hear about, like the selfie project and so forth, that's done through the app. So that's really student friendly. In terms of student friendliness, the site itself is not particularly designed for young people. It's a site that's really collating art, interactive tours, museum content, cultural artifacts from around the world. And as such, I think as teachers, we would carry a health warning. It's not somewhere I'd send students to explore by themselves, because not all of that content is suitable for all children. So you definitely want to be curating from here, selecting from here, content that's going to support our learning outcomes, support the activities we want to do with our kids, and make sure that we know exactly what we're going to get our kids to look at when they are on this page for us. So website is artsandculture.google.com. It follows that same mechanism that you'll recognise from docs.google.com and sheets.google.com. And it's a fairly familiar interface, and you've got a number of ways to approach it. What I typically do is I will favourite the content that I find that I like, because it's such a huge site and there's new content on it all the time. If you haven't favorited something, it can almost be kind of gone before you've got hold of it. So it's definitely worth favoriting. So if I go to my favorites here, this is how I can curate content that I want to share with my students. So if I just go back a step to the main page, let's imagine I wanted to use this one. In order to favorite it, if I come down to the bottom here, I've got a heart button on a collection normally. That's because I'm in an activity, which I can favorite. But you can already see some content here which we might need to explain if we wanted to use with our students rather than just allowing them to explore it solo. Okay. So one of the things I thought was nice and relevant for today, particularly thinking about hybrid learning, is there's actually an art project on here that was it's student artwork that was submitted to a series of prompts around what the experience of lockdown was for students. And I can imagine using these artworks themselves as prompts for further work. You could use these looking at geography, human geography, how people have experienced lockdown differently in different places. You could use these as prompts for students to do artwork or to do creative writing or to analyse these artworks. You can see I've clicked this heart in the middle here, and that's how you add it to your favourites. Now I could very simply click this share button and literally just share that entire gallery of images to Classroom. So if I've got a collection and I'm really happy with all of it and I want to use the whole piece, I can literally just integrate that to Classroom, grab that link, and it's going to ask me, which classroom I want to put it on in the usual way that you'd expect to see with the Google tools. So I can drop it on here as an assignment, but I can also ask a question about it. So I could immediately here start building in the kind of simplicity of a workflow around using this kind of tool. So I could be asking them to select an artwork and talk about it and write about it. And because we're thinking about synchronous and asynchronous experiences, if I use question and I allow the students to see each other's answers, what I'm doing there is creating a space where a conversation can happen based on a stimulus that isn't necessarily needing to happen in real time. So I can set a deadline on that for, perhaps tomorrow at 4 o'clock, if my lesson, let's say, is today. And it just makes space. It makes space for those students who aren't necessarily with us in real time, who might have different family circumstances, whatever else, to access and enjoy this activity with their peers, because that conversation will appear as a thread on Google Classroom as an assignment. So that would be one way of on a simple level, just using arts and culture to stimulate a conversation or an activity. But I would definitely give that caveat of checking through the artwork and making sure you're happy with it. So if you've got a whole gallery that you really like, easy share from the share button. But if you just wanted to share a particular individual piece of art, there are 4 themes in this collection. So let's go and look at the theme of time. And there's video content too, and again, it shares in exactly the same way as the arts and culture content. So let's say perhaps I wanted to share this one. Oh, okay, let's try this one instead. You can see I've got this interesting framing. So again, if I was working with photography or art students or any number of ways I could use this as a prompt in teaching, I've got exactly the same thing. I can favorite it. I can link directly to this page, or I can share it. And again, that Classroom interface pops up. I can share it and ask a question. So I think that one of the big takeaways for me from arts and culture is very much the idea of not reinventing the wheel. There is bags and bags and bags of great content here that's already themed, that's already organized. You can explore by color, you can explore by topic, you can explore any number of different ways. And rather than having to make or find a resource, there's so much good stuff that's here already. Let's imagine that I was going to teach, let's think about something. Perhaps I was going to teach something to do with music that day. You can see the kind of interfaces I've got here. So I can explore by colour, I can explore by time period, I can look at movements in art and art history across time. Something that I think is really useful that I used last year, the fantastic resources on Black history and culture in the UK, working with some of my students to try to get a deeper understanding of the contribution Black British people have made right back through history. So this was a great conversation starter here, just foregrounding Black voices and allowing this artwork to talk and to show a real range of role models. But again, it's really important to preview it and not just share it blindly. Okay, so let's say I wanted to do something about music, and I knew that perhaps I've already saved this one. I wanted to look at some content that's in VR. could visit this museum. If I've got this on the app, I can visit in VR. So if I've got the goggles for the expeditions, I can take a tour around this museum. But I can just look at individual content. I can follow through an online exhibit and look at a story. But you can really get into any kind of topics here around making or design, and how things might have changed over time. Right, I'm heading up to be out of time at this point, so I'm going to hand over to Kev, who's going to pick up and talk about how we can actually use and create some of this stuff together for learning. Ready, Kev?
Yeah, here we go.
Thanks very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Kev. I'm the Creative Learning Specialist at HSDC, which is a multi-college campus in Hampshire, in the UK. And today I'm just going to go over using a few tools to enhance your resources for improved learner engagement. There's never been a better time for us to enhance our resources so that we're captivating our learners during a remote delivery. So, right, let's get to it. So I'm going to create an engaging presentation using some multimedia assets. Now the presentation is going to be a Google Slides, but what I'm going to do to gather my content is I'm going to head over to canva.com, which has a huge library of resources pre-built for you, which save you so much time in order to use visual design techniques to really enhance your materials. So I'm going to look at building a presentation. So with that, I'm just going to come up to the top and then I'm going to hit presentation. I mean, I can select a wide variety of all of these beautifully pre-designed presentations, but I'm after something quite quick and kind of bespoke. So keeping with the music theme, I'm going to select this slide, which has been pre-built over here. Now I'm only going to want to choose a few slides for this presentation, so I might go with the title screen there, which is really nice. I'm going to come down to the bottom right hand corner and just change the size of it because it's a bit too big. I'm going to add in another page. I think the stereo works quite well, and I'm going to add one final one, which is a nice little quote by Plato at the end. So straight away you can see how, you know, how sort of bright and vibrant this slideshow is already looking. It's really captivating. It's getting my attention, and that's one thing we really need to concentrate on with our students during this time. Using white paper with black text, whether digital or print, it's not engaging them anymore. It never engaged me as a teacher, and it was the first thing I worked on with my students in terms of improving that quality. So now I've got my 3 basic templates. I think what we're going to do is we're going to call it music production, and we're going to call this live performances, because we're going to be looking at some live performances of artists as part of like a research project. So we'll call that a research project, if I can spell it. And we're going to look at rock industry. I do love a bit of rock music, and we'll keep with the quotes there. Now I can stay in Canva if I want to, but I really want to utilize Google Slides because it integrates nicely with Google Classroom, but I also want to make the slides a collaborative one as well. So I'm going to come up to the top right hand corner and just press the download button, and I'm going to select a high quality image, so a PNG, and I'm just going to download all of the pages, and that will do it pretty quickly. Always get a nice little quote here. Best way to predict your future is to create it. Thank you, Abraham Lincoln. And then I've got that in my downloads folder. I'm going to unzip that, and it will give me my 3 images. So coming back up to slides, I would have hit slides.new in the web bar there just to bring that up. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag the image straight into slides like that. I'm going to align it in the middle, and as you can see, I've got these really nice, this crosshair coming up, these nice guides which are just snapping to align it for me. I'm going to add in a couple more blank pages just so I can drop in images 2 and 3. Now, one thing just to mention is I've edited these things in Canva, so now I can't edit them in slides. So as you can see, it's a really nice little mistake there. I love making mistakes. I love learning from them. So I can't now edit that. So there's a really good example for you. We're pushing for time, so I'm not going to go back and change that, but you will understand what I mean. Okay, and then I'm just going to drag in number 3 here, and there we go. We've got that nice little quote at the end. Okay, so that's basically a brief template there of using a visual design tool. I'm also going to add in maybe, actually, I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to put in a blank page, because now I want to add in some video. So in terms of looking at live performance, I'm going to search video on YouTube, and you can't beat a bit of Radiohead in terms of live performance. And we're just going to search for, it's quite a recent one, and then I'm just going to implement that into the slide. And then I'm going to use those guides again, just to snap it on the horizontal line. I think in terms of visual design, it's the guides are really helpful in terms of aligning and keeping everything clean and concise. There's nothing worse than seeing something so jarring that, despite the content that you might have in the information, it's really disengaging because of the way it's aligned and the way it fits on the page. So the guides work really nice in your favor. I'm just going to drop in some text, live performance to check out. I'm going to use spell checking. I'm going to change the font to something a little bit nicer than Arial. There we go. And then I'm going to come over to the bottom right-hand corner and click on the Explore button, and it'll give me some ideas of how I can reformat it. So some pretty good ideas. If you can hear a funny noise, that's just my dog down there. He's on his back playing. So just in case you're wondering, there's some funny noise in the background. So there we go. We've got that, so we can blend that in there as well. I'm going to add in another blank page, because in terms of teaching remote and being at home, you know, it'd be great if we could take our students, you know, somewhere other than their living rooms, their bedrooms or so. We would like to take them out in the world. So I'm going to use the web page which Laura just spoke about, the National Museum, National Music Museum, in terms of a VR experience. And I'm going to click that little link. Before actually I click that, I'm going to take a screen grab of this image here. I'm going to jump back to slides, I'm not, I've gone to the wrong slide. I'm going to go back, take an image again. There we go. Now I've got the right slide. Drop that in there. So we've got a nice image of it there. And I'm going to go back to that website and copy that link, as Laura previously mentioned. Go back to my slides. I'm going to hit Command K because I'm working off a Mac. So I'm going to enter the link. I'm going to apply that. I've got Explore still open on the right, so I'm going to use one of those nice little templates, something quite jazzy like that. Actually, no, I do not like that. I'm going to go with maybe that one. That one's quite nice. So when I click on the image, I get this little link down here. So what we've done is we've blended visual design elements of graphic design using Canva, and we've blended that with Google Slides to create this multimedia resource, which is a lot more engaging. Implemented some video using YouTube, and we've also integrated arts and culture, so we can take our students on a VR experience. And then I can just go up to share, I'm going to call this music slide. And then in order for it to be a collaborative presentation, I'm going to change the anyone with a link to the editor. And then once that's done, I can have my students work on that, and they can gather their own assets. Maybe they use that as a template, and then they can work together to really construct their own, you know, engaging presentations that way. And then they can hand that in into Google Classroom just using the share code there. So I'll copy that one there, and then they can integrate that straight into Google Classroom. So there you go. That's a really quick way of app smashing various different tools to make something a lot more engaging, using visual design, using graphics, using video, using VR. and just a very quick, simple way of showing you how this can be achieved. And that's back over to you, Laura. I think that was my time there. If you're still there, Laura.
There we go. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Kev. That's a lovely way to see that integrating together all those different tools, and again, making the most of content that's already out there. I think sometimes you just need that encouragement to explore what's available and think about how they can put it together for their own purposes and their own subjects. So I think that's a really great example. Thank you very much.
Also, oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think in terms of workload, it really does save time. For those who may feel like they don't have creativity. We all do. For those who do not have the time to create their own resources, something like Google Canva or even Google Slides using the Explore button, really can save you time in terms of creating something, really engaging and meaningful.
Yeah, and I think I very much second what you said about the design being important. If it's too noisy, if there's too many transitions and animations and loads of things going on, I think it just creates an overload that potentially can be a bit of an obstacle. So keeping things simple, using those design tools built in is fabulous. Okay, I'm going to next take us into Google Sites. Kev, can you share that link with me for that site you just made, for that slideshow, and I'm going to use it in my next session.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Right. If I can have my screen in, please, and then we'll get going. Okay. So what I want to show you now is how we can use Google Sites. So just the same as every other Google tool, it's sites.google.com, or you can use the .new shortcut, which takes you immediately into a new Google site. I actually want to go to the Sites homepage, so we'll start back again at sites.google.com. So building web pages is a really, I remember not too long ago, it was you had to have a specialist skill, and there are still, to build a company site, you might still need those kind of skills. I'm sure there are people out there who have those skills. But in terms of students just acquiring some digital skills, Google Sites is a really simple place to start. And I've used it in a number of different ways. Today I want to talk about 2 different ways. Again, remembering that we're focusing on hybrid learning at the moment and on trying to make space and create equity between students who are in the classroom and students who are at home. Anything you can do that has that sort of holder function, I think is potentially very helpful. So I'm just going to do this live so you can see how quick it is. Kev and I are both very conscious of not adding things that are too complicated at the moment, because teachers are also feeling quite overloaded and overburdened. So I'm going to use one of the existing templates that are already here. So just by coming to the slides page, and again, it doesn't matter what device you're on. If you're on an iPad, then using Safari, but using it in browser mode, gives you all of this functionality. I'm going to use this template gallery. If I click down here, I've got a number of options popping up for me already. And if I keep going down, I get some education ones at the bottom, which are helpful. Here we go, including this student portfolio. So what I can do with sites in this way would be potentially to make a little screencast of that step and ask my students to use this particular template so they know when they're coming. Or I could create the template and then share it to them and ask them to make their own copy. So most of the content here is ready-made. But let's imagine that I wanted to do project work, because project work is one way we can tackle this hybrid and synchronous and asynchronous situation. So let's say that this is, I don't know, group 1's project space. All I need to do is add my students here to the project space. I'm gonna use Kev in this scenario. No, I'm not, because I haven't got his link there. That's fine. I can add a number of people here, and they could all, just as if it was a Google Doc, people could all work in real time into the document. When I add the person there, I get to choose what it is I want them to be able to do to the site. So again, it might be about just thinking about maybe having students all as editors or all as owners or all as viewers. You've got a lot of control there over how you want to use it. But let's say that we have all the students as editors, that's fine. When I publish my site, I choose how I want to publish it. So I can select, probably have to put some content in it first. Here we go. Who can see my site? So this is within, I'm making this in my Kanopy account. So this is at the moment visible to everyone in Kanopy. So when we're making student websites, it's important in terms of safety to have that digital literacy conversation at the stage that they're at. For all the students, having that authentic audience, having a site that's publicly visible can be fantastic, and it can be a really great experience for them of getting their voice out into the wider world. But for things like school projects and group work, I would tend to keep that within the school domain. But again, you can change that. I have to give it a name. So again, I might just change this to Group 1. Oh, hello. Group 1. And publish. So that site is now live to anyone who is logged in to a Kanopy domain. The beauty of these sites is how simple they are. So all of this can be changed. I've seen something really nice, people using GIFs here. So you get an animated header, which is quite fun. Let's do that to start with. So that's just got just nice little things. And there are obviously different templates and different things you can do in there. But if this is our group space, this template gives us a really simple place to start. But again, we could create an instruction for our students about how we want their pages to look and what we want to do with it. But let's imagine that what I want to do at this point is actually have that really nice presentation that Kev has just made and to embed it in my slide deck, in my slides. So that could be the instructions. I could create those instructions and have them here. All I need to do once I've added it to my drive is insert it. So what I'm going to do is just grab that to my drive, if I can, make a copy of the presentation. And then if I click here in Drive, I can bring in any content that's in my drive. So anything that I've already got here, there it is, copy of music presentation. I can either drag and drop it, or I can click it and insert it. So that can be docs, that can be Google Forms, that can be any content that's based in my drive. And as an embedded file, I can change the size of it. I can set it up. That'll do. My computer's being a bit slow today, sorry. And students, when they view that slide, if I click the preview, I can see how it looks. I can make sure it looks sensible and that it's big enough. Oh, I needed to publish it before I clicked the view button. Celebrate mistakes. There we go. And once I've made a change, before I publish, it checks that I'm happy. It shows me what the changes are that I've made. There we go. And now if I view the published site again, you can see that I've got that example embedded. While my site makes its mind up about doing that for me. There we go. So this is now a live site. And down here, I've got the instructions for what students I might want to do with students. So if you were working with student portfolios, you could use this for an individual student. If you're not as familiar with sites, any content you add, you can add pages. You can have that navigation down the side, and you can rearrange. You can have pages and sub-pages and have things organized differently. As a multimedia environment, you can obviously insert video. You can do things like you can have slideshows. So if you had a bunch of images that you wanted to use, you could insert them from your Google Drive and have those on a rolling carousel as it goes around. Okay, I think we're pretty much due for me to hand back to Kev. hopefully that's a couple of ideas of how you could use Google Sites if you haven't seen it. So I would recommend it for student portfolios, but also for group work in terms of giving that space for students to work together when they're not physically together and just use the advantage of distance, absolutely. I think Kev's going to talk now about how we might give feedback. And again, very much with an eye to not adding loads of work, but making that feedback meaningful and impactful for students.
Thank you, Laura. Yes, I think in my always go-to tool for providing feedback, meaningful feedback, and which saves me time is Screencastify, which is an extension that lives in Google Chrome. And I'm just going to give you a brief demonstration of how you can provide feedback using this really simple and easy tool. So up in my Chrome toolbar up here, I'm just going to click on the extension here, and it's going to drop this little window down for me. I'm going to select the browser tab for the one I'm working in at the moment, and I'm going to enable my microphone and webcam. But if I click on show more options, I get a countdown, which I can choose between 3, 5 and 10 seconds. 3 seconds is more than enough. And I'm going to enable the drawing tools. This is your annotation tools. This is really, really helpful if you really want to draw focus or pinpoint something. I'm just going to hit record. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide visual and auditory feedback. So now it's recording. We're just going to go through this presentation. And I'm just going to simply say, you know, this is a fantastic opening page, great use of graphic design. It's very visually engaging. It's drawing me in straight away. As we move to the next slide, this is really nice. It's not too busy. There's a good use of negative space here. I'm going to come down to the bottom left-hand corner and just use my pen tool. I'm going to change the color so it's a bit more visual there. And I've noticed a spelling mistake. So going back to what I said earlier on about how I made that mistake and you couldn't change it once you create something in Canva and put it in slides. I'm just going to pick that up on there and just draw a little bit of focus on there and grab my graphics pen, which is going to be a lot easier. It would be a lot easier if I've just nudged it by accident. So let's take that off for a start. So if you've got a graphics pen and a little tablet, it makes writing using Screencastify so much easier. I'm using a trackpad here, which is a little bit more challenging, but if I use the pen, I can just bring a bit of focus there and just say, just check your spelling once you're designing your presentations. And then I'm going to come back down to the bottom left and just hit my cursor. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Lovely. This is a great quote. Again, the slide is really nice. It's really clean. I'm not lost in too much information. It's nicely aligned. It's just really comfortable on the eye. It's really getting my attention. I see here that they've embedded a video which is linking to live performances. And I think this is a great use of video to be implemented into their presentation. And then we have, click on here, it's giving me a link to a VR experience using arts and culture. So that's a really good way of blending all of this information into here. With Screencastify, there's one tool I absolutely love, and it's the focus. It's where you add a little spotlight, and that's really good for bringing the attention to a certain aspect of the document, whether it's a slide, it's a video, it's a document, whatever the tool may be. That's really good for sort of bringing that in and sort of saying, I love this image here. I love how you've used the rule of thirds. You've applied that there in terms of the image, and just the use of this link, just something so simple is so effective, which will now take me off and provide me with a VR experience without leaving the comfort of my own home. And I really, really like that. It's a really good tool. Once I've done that and I've read my annotations and my feedback, and it's great that the student can see me in the bottom right-hand corner, you know, it makes it a little bit more personal by actually seeing it yourself in there. I'm just going to hit pause and then I'm going to hit stop. Now, what this is going to do, as you can see, is it's automatically backing it up into my Google Drive, which is just fantastic. You know, no need to press Command S, Control S, no need to go up to File and Save. Look, done, job done, already done there for me. It's provided me with a title using the text from the first slide, and I can amend that if I want to. So maybe I just want to add your slides, feedback. It automatically replays it for you, and you can just press this pause button if you wish. And down the bottom here, you have a couple of really handy tools. You have your trim tool. So maybe you want to trim off a few seconds on the back end of it, which is just going to cut out that little bit of me fumbling to go and stop the video. And then maybe at the beginning, I've started off with a or an R, which is very common with video recordings. And so I'm just going to shave off like a second or two from the beginning. And then once I'm done, I'm going to hit save, trim right down there in the bottom right hand corner. I am sure I want to do that. I want to trim that, clean it up, and then that will just do its thing. And this is what's great about just saving a little bit of time. It's all doing it for you, you know. I can come up to the top right hand corner. I can copy the link. So for instance, I could drop this back into maybe a Google Doc. Maybe it's like a one-to-one doc with my student, and I can just drop in that feedback there. I could drop it into a Hangout chat, however I wish to share it, maybe on the Google Classroom. And then you have a variety of other options. You can share it straight to your Google Classroom. You can publish it to YouTube if you're using the channels there. You can also download it if you want, and a variety of different media. So you can download it as an MP4, so universal video format, just as audio or as a little GIF. You know, and the GIF might be pretty cool, but you won't have the sound. You can then view it on your drive. You click on here, it'll just take me straight to my drive, and I have it on there. It just takes a little while for it to process, upload into your drive, but it will eventually be there, and you can download and so on and so on. But it's just, as you can see with the playback, it's just a really sort of effective way of producing and providing feedback for our students, which really gives it that personal touch, as opposed to just words, black text on a white screen, you know. And this really gives an opportunity to really get your emotional response back, especially if it's something, you know, you think, oh, this is fantastic, it's brilliant, you smashed it out of the park, you know. The student will then feed off that energy, and at a time like this, when we're remote delivery, you know, what a great way of providing your feedback and ensuring your students they're doing wonderful things. So that's basically how I use feedback. Use Screencastify, really gives that personal touch. And like I say, it saves a lot of time. It's quick, it's easy, and you can implement it in a variety of different ways. Sharing a link, you can via email, Classroom, however you want to do it, straight to Classroom, generate a QR code, maybe if you want to get really creative with it, but a really, you know, cool, quick, easy win for maximum impact. So I'd say go check that out, definitely. Back to you, Laura. So I've been on a news program right here.
Thanks very much, Kev. That's awesome. I really like Screencastify too, and I think I found, because obviously you can use it over anything that's web-based. So exactly. You can use it to, if you were doing media literacy, you could use it to give an illustration of how you'd analyze a website, or how you'd break something down to get our students to help you with their kind of comprehension of complex issues. You could do a talk through of something. Any web-based tool, so your Google Docs, your slides, your sheets, anything like that, you can just talk straight over it. And as you said, which I think is the really important part, it's about that connection, that emotional connection, that human connection with our students, particularly the ones that aren't with us. I certainly found in the summer term of last year with my students that using voice feedback allowed for tone. And I think particularly with teenagers, they can be really self-critical. They can miss the positive in and among the feedback you're giving them. So if they've got your tone, they can really hear that you're genuinely pleased with them. Or if you are saying something that's more kind of critical, they can contextualize it, I think, more easily when you have a kind of phrase rather than, as you say, just the typed text. So I definitely think it helps with connection. and that kind of human side of being a learner and a teacher in this strange moment we find ourselves in. Okay, we're going to move into Q&A at the moment. So let's see what we've got in the YouTube Q&A. Have we got anything there? Okay, so there's nothing in the chat at the moment, but if you have got questions, do let us know what those are. Hit us up. In the meantime, I think probably something that we could talk about a little bit is the importance of creativity in learning and teaching. And you said something that I thought was really interesting, Kev, about some people think they're not creative. And I think it's some experience too. So what did you mean? What do you want to say a bit more about that?
Yeah, well, I've heard from people sort of say to me, I can't do these things, I'm not a creative, I can't design anything like that. I think a lot of people, they sort of link the word creative with those of the arts. To be a creative, I need to be able to draw, I need to be able to design, it's nothing like that. I mean, a lot of it's to do with problem solving, figuring out how to get from A to B, maybe not in a linear fashion, and that's how you're creative. Changing a light bulb in a sense could be creative if you're if you don't have the right tools at hand, and you need to think of a creative way of overcoming that. So when I had a staff member say to me recently, I'm not creative, I can't do these things, that's what really resonated for me. And I really empowered them to sort of, embrace what creativity really is. It's not about painting a picture. It's not about graphically designing something. It is all about problem solving. It is about how can I achieve this by maybe doing this and that, like playing around with that jigsaw, putting the elements together, and finally that piece, that image comes together. But that's what I believe creativity, to be.
I really agree. I really second that. I think that idea of problem solving, being presented with a situation and trying to kind of reason your way through it, and problem solve your way through it. For me, it links. There's the 4 C's on the 21st century learning, and I think creativity, collaboration, communication skills. They all interact. So I think anything we can do as educators to build any one of those skills, if we can teach our students better collaboration skills, then creativity is kind of a bit more unlocked from that. So
yeah,
trying to join those dots.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of, how could I engage my learners during a time like this? You're then going to come up with a solution, which is a creative one. You're thinking outside of the box. You've been put in a uncomfortable zone in which now your back's against that wall, and you've got to suddenly think, actually, I need an answer to this. I need to be able to embrace the technology at hand, engage those students. I'm not too sure how I'm going to do this, but I've got these tools at my disposal. And just by doing these steps, risk taking, and being sort of innovative in that approach, I think that's really encapsulates the creativity process.
Absolutely. Yeah, really agree with that completely. I think some of the most interesting work that I've seen, well, a good example of this is my previous school, St. Catherine's. They do a great project about, they're based on the Selfie project from Google Arts and Culture. They get students to create their own projects, and giving them that starter, I think, can really help to overcome that hesitancy some of us have around creativity. So having good resources, as we've said today, as a sort of stimulus, then having a structured framework, whether it's your Google Slides example, which is like a portfolio, or whether it's a Google site with all the resources on, organized, and then some clear tasks underneath it. And then getting that teacher feedback, what we're hopefully doing is building a scaffold around our students within which they feel supported to be creative and to take risks and to try to problem solve. If we haven't got loads of questions in the chat, I wonder whether it's moving towards time for us to wrap up and look for feedback. Do we have any questions in the YouTube chat yet? Cool. So it's 4:15, so I think it's probably a good point for us to draw things to a close. It would really help us if you could fill in some feedback for us, because we are always trying to improve what we offer and make sure that it's meeting the needs of teachers in our community. But yeah, I would like to thank you for listening and giving your time this afternoon. Hope it's been helpful. Kev, do you want to say anything?
Thank you very much for your time. Yep, I hope it's been impactful and helpful. And if you need any help, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much, everybody. Let's call it a day.